The spotlight of the entertainment world again leads to two names that seem to never escape the public's attention: Jimin and Jungkook. In the midst of the rapid flow of information and sharp observations from fans and external media, a moment that seemed simple turned into a big speculation that caught the global attention. There was no official announcement, no statement confirming anything, but that's where his power lies. The absence of a definite answer made their every little move feel meaningful. It all started from an interaction that was accidentally recorded. In the video clip that quickly spread on various platforms, it can be seen how Jimin looks at Jungkook with an expression that is difficult to explain. Not just an ordinary look, but a look that seems to keep something deeper. Jungkook, on the other hand, responded in a no less mysterious way, a faint smile that only appeared for a moment, then disappeared as if it never existed. That brief moment, which may only last a few seconds, has now turned into a long analysis material for fans that it didn't take long until various theories emerged. Some think it's just a form of natural closeness between two friends who have been through many things together. However, not a few see it as something more complex. The outside media began to raise this phenomenon, questioning why such a small interaction can trigger such a big reaction from the public. Is there anything that hasn't been seen all this time? Or is it the public who is too deep to read every detail? What makes this situation even more interesting is the long history of their relationship. Jimin and Jungkook are known to have a strong bond since the beginning of their career. They grow together under the harsh pressure of the industry, support each other in difficult moments, and share happiness in great achievements. This closeness has long been an attraction for fans. However, precisely because of that closeness, every small change in their interaction becomes a highlight that cannot be ignored. In the last few occasions, many felt that there was something different. Not a drastic change, but a nuance that is difficult to explain. The way they talk, the distance they keep, even their body language that seems more careful, all become the subject of conversation. Is this just a temporary phase? Or is there a new dynamic going on between them? Entertainment industry observers try to give a more rational perspective. They reminded that the life of an idol is never free from public pressure. Every movement, every expression, even every silence, they can be interpreted in various ways. In this context, the moment between Jimin and Jungkook may just be part of the usual dynamics magnified by the media spotlight. However, for fans, logic is often defeated by feelings. Interestingly, this speculation does not only come from one side. Some see it as a sign of maturity, that their relationship is evolving and changing over time. There are also those who consider it as an indication of a distance that is starting to form. These two opposing points of view actually make the discussion even hotter, because each of them has evidence that they strongly believe in the midst of all this. One thing for sure is the power of the narrative formed from that moment. The modern entertainment world is no longer just about what is clearly visible, but also about how something is interpreted. In the case of Jimin and Jungkook, that interpretation is the main fuel of the ever-growing speculation. Some fans try to retrace old moments, looking for patterns that may be missed. They compare past interactions with present interactions, trying to find differences that can explain this situation. However, the deeper they dig, the more questions arise. Does the change really exist? Or is it just an illusion created by expectations? Meanwhile, some others choose to enjoy the moment without trying to interpret it excessively. They see it as proof that the relationship between Jimin and Jungkook is still strong, regardless of what other people say. For them, the authenticity of the interaction is more important than the speculation that surrounds it. However, it cannot be denied that the external media spotlight has brought this story to a different level. What was originally only a discussion among fans is now a widely discussed topic. Articles, analysis videos, and long discussions have emerged, each of which tries to provide answers to questions that actually do not necessarily have a definite answer. This is where the paradox lies. The more people try to explain, the greater the mystery it feels. That simple moment is now no longer just an ordinary interaction, but a symbol of something bigger, a story that continues to develop without a clear direction. In the end, perhaps the biggest question is not what really happened between Jimin and Jungkook, but why the public wants to know so much. Is this about natural curiosity, or is there a deeper emotional need from fans to understand the relationship they admire? What is clear? That moment has left a mark that is difficult to erase. Whether as evidence of closeness, a sign of change, or just a coincidence that is magnified by public attention. One thing is certain. Jimin and Jungkook again managed to make the world stop for a moment and wonder. And maybe that's where their true strength is. Not only in their music or appearance, but in the ability to create stories, even from the simplest moments, that can evoke the emotions and imaginations of millions of people around the world. But this story doesn't stop there. Precisely after that moment went viral, the wave of reaction from fans is getting harder to stop. Something has changed not only in the way the public sees Jimin and Jungkook, but also in the way every little detail of their lives is treated like a puzzle piece that must be pieced together into one big story. A few days after the video was widely spread, other pieces began to appear. Old clips, candid photos, to interactions that were previously considered normal are now being brought up and reanalyzed. It's as if the world is trying to find the red thread that connects everything. And in the midst of all that, one thing is starting to become clear. This is no longer just about one moment, but about a narrative that is slowly built by the public itself. There is one clip that is back in the spotlight. In an event, Jungkook is seen reflexively approaching when Jimin looks a little out of balance. The movement is fast, almost invisible if not observed carefully. But for the fans, it is a real proof of something deeper, a natural reflex that cannot be fabricated. Such a reaction, according to them, only arises from a really strong relationship. On the other hand, there is also a moment that actually triggers new questions. In an interview, when Jimin's name was mentioned, Jungkook was silent for a moment before answering. The pause was short, maybe only a fraction of a second, but it was enough to make many people wonder. Is it just a coincidence? Or is there something that is being thought deeper? Speculation is even more wild when some fans start comparing the way they interact in front of the camera and behind the scenes. Some feel that behind the public spotlight, they look more relaxed and natural. But in front of the camera, there is an impression of caution that is more felt. This difference then gives rise to various theories, from reasonable to completely unexpected. What makes everything more complicated is how the outside media enlarges this situation. They not only report, but also participate in forming opinions. Dramatic titles, in-depth analysis, to bold speculations make this story even harder to ignore. In many ways, this shows how the power of the media can change the public's perception of something that doesn't necessarily have that much meaning. But behind all this noise, there is another side that is often forgotten. The human side of Jimin and Jungkook himself. They are not only public figures, but also individuals who have personal feelings, thoughts, and dynamics that cannot always be understood by outsiders. The pressure to always look fine in front of the public can be a burden that is not light. Some fans began to voice their concerns. They hope that excessive speculation will not hurt the two idols. Because in the end, behind every theory and analysis, there are two real people who may just live their days as usual, without realizing that their every move is being interpreted in such a way. But ironically, it is precisely because of the uncertainty that this story continues to live. If everything is clear and confirmed, perhaps the public's attention will soon shift to something else. But as long as there is still room for interpretation, as long as there is still a mystery that has not been solved, then this story will continue to be talked about. Some even start to see this phenomenon from a broader perspective. They think that what happened to Jimin and Jungkook is a reflection of how fandom culture works in the digital era, where the line between reality and interpretation is getting thinner, and where every small detail can develop into a big narrative that affects millions of people. In the midst of all that, Jimin and Jungkook continue to carry out their activities as usual. They continue to perform, continue to interact, and continue to show professionalism that has been their hallmark all this time. No clarification, no explanation, just a continuation of the routine that seems not to be affected by the storm of speculation out there. And maybe that's where the real answer lies. That not everything needs to be explained. Not every moment has a hidden meaning. And not all speculation must lead to a definite truth. Sometimes a moment is just a moment that becomes big because of the way we see it.